Hey guys, Mike here. So today, I'm here to talk to you about Babyteeth. In this review, I'll be going over a brief summary of the plot, my quick thoughts about the film, and whether or not you guys should go and see it. So I'm going to try and keep this review spoiler-free. However, if you don't know anything about the film and you want to go in completely blind, then let's just come back to this video once you've seen the film. So with that, let's get started, shall we?
This is the worst possible parenting I can imagine.
So Babyteeth stars Eliza Scanlon as Mila. In Babyteeth, Mila, a seriously ill teenager, falls in love with Moses, a drug dealer, her parents' worst nightmare. And so we have Babyteeth. So guys, going into this one, I had no idea what this was about. Basically, I took one look at the poster and thought, yeah, I'll give that a watch. Honestly, the main reason I watched this one is because I thought it was the girl from It. Because I didn't really look at the cast, all I did was look at the poster. And I thought, yeah, this might be alright. But then a couple of seconds into the film, I found out that it wasn't the girl from It. But by that point, I'd already started watching the movie, so it was kind of too late. And because I didn't know what this movie was about, it did kind of take me a second to realise where it was going, because this film doesn't really feel like it starts off at the beginning. It kind of feels like it starts off about 30 minutes in, because really, instead of taking the time to establish these characters, it kind of throws you in the deep end and kind of starts you off with their story already begun. Which honestly wasn't that bad, because it kind of felt like a bit of a fresh take. Because though it did take a little bit longer to get to know these characters, it made the experience of getting to know them a bit more rewarding. And it didn't just feel like it was spoon-feeding information to you. However, on the note of spoon-feeding, where I did feel the movie was spoon-feeding information was with nearly every other scene that would have these title cards which would say, them sitting in a bed, the first day of school, a romantic scene. And where I feel this was kind of a bit too spoon-feeding was in scenes where they're trying to convey a certain emotion and they'll kind of just tell you what's going to happen, not really letting you naturally experience how the scene is going to go. It's already put you in a mindset of what's going to happen. So instead of showing you what's going to happen and allowing you to kind of make your own mind up of how it's going to go, it just tells you. And honestly, I feel that's kind of a bit lazy. But honestly, I would have said that it wasn't that bad if it didn't keep happening like every 10 minutes in the movie. Instead of making you feel like it's setting up an act, it more feels like it's just trying to tell you constantly how to feel. So initially, not thinking it was going to be a big deal, it did become quite distracting. As for the performances though, everyone was really good in this. Honestly, the person who stood out most to me was Ben Mendelsohn. Because honestly, this is probably the first film for me that I've seen him in where he's not playing the villain. Except for Captain Marvel, but technically in that film, he does kind of start off as the villain. But still, Ben Mendelsohn was really good in this. I really liked his character. How he was extremely flawed, like pretty much everyone else in this movie, but still became quite an endearing character. Because honestly, these aren't the most stable or well put together characters, and that is part of the movie's charm. And where Babyteeth is at its best is in these dramatic human moments. Because this story is a really heartbreaking story. It's about a girl who's struggling with a life-ending illness and how her parents are trying to put on a brave face for her and just show her that they'll be okay after she's gone, or just trying to show her just that they can be strong for her. And that is a really powerful message. And for anyone who's going through this situation, this movie would be incredibly hard to watch. But if I'm being honest, where this film loses me is when it's being incredibly indie quirky. And honestly, it kind of happens so much that it becomes incredibly annoying to watch, where these characters will do just quirky things for the sake of being quirky. Like saying things in an unnecessarily weird way, dancing at random times, saying things that just normal people wouldn't say. And honestly, it just becomes incredibly cheesy and aggravating to listen to. And if it wasn't for the scenes like I mentioned before, where the characters are at their most human and at their most dramatic, this film would have been incredibly overly aggravating to listen to. But I gotta admit though, I think the overly quirkiness does overshadow the amazing acting that is presented in this film. But honestly, going back to the characters though, I just really hated the character of Moses. Obviously though, I think that was the main point, that you're not really supposed to like this guy, or maybe it's the kind of thing where you're supposed to feel sorry for him. I'm not really sure. All I know is that I just really didn't like his character. He was just incredibly selfish, he was kind of a scumbag, and it was kind of hard to tell whether he actually even cared for this girl. I know that's probably the point of the movie, but for me, it just made him a really unengaging and unlikable character. And it's when he says things like, oh, I don't want to be functional yet, because if you're functional, then that means you're already slotted into a position in life. And at that point, I was just like, Oh god, kill me already. It was just kind of typical indie film thing to say. Overall, guys, I had incredibly mixed feelings about this movie. Granted, I haven't watched that many indie romance films, so I haven't exactly got the most vast of knowledge with this kind of film genre. But even for me, this film felt incredibly cliched. Though it had some really impressive performances, pretty much nothing else about this movie stood out to me in a significant way. The story felt kinda generic, the overuse of the title cards just really became annoying, and the overly quirky nature of the whole film was, again, incredibly aggravating. But at the end of the day, I think it just boils down to the fact this isn't my kind of film. These aren't the films that I really actively seek out. And I imagine for people who really enjoy these kind of movies, this film is really good. It's probably one of the best things that you've seen all year. But for me personally, I just really couldn't get that engaged with the story. And I just really didn't enjoy this one all that much. That's just basically the bottom line. I just didn't enjoy this movie all that much. And I think as a whole, the negatives definitely outweighed the positives. But as for whether or not you guys should see it, honestly, personally, I wouldn't recommend this movie. This is a movie that I would only recommend to people who actually like indie movies. If I was trying to get someone into these kind of movies, this is not the one that I would start off with. Granted, I can't think of that many examples of movies that are similar to this one, but personally, this was one that I just really couldn't get into. Okay guys, that's my review of Babyteeth. If you've seen it, what did you think about it? And what's your favourite indie romance? Whatever it is, drop it in the comments below. Until next time, I've been Michael. See ya!